to the Break Room Workforce Experience, a podcast where we step out of the noise and into real conversations with the people shaping work, talent, and business right here in West Michigan and beyond. This episode is what HR leaders need to get right in today's manufacturing talent market. We have an awesome guest. I'm really excited because his work lives at the intersection of people, culture, and operational excellence every single day. Mark Zink is the Senior Director of People Services at Request Foods, an organization known not just for great products, but for how seriously they take their people. Mark, welcome to the Break Room.
Hey, thanks, Johnny. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about this topic especially.
Yeah, we appreciate you and your leadership right here in West Michigan. So I'm excited you took the time, and thank you for your time to do that. So let's jump right into the break room. For those of you, for those listening, for the audience who may not know you or maybe Request Foods yet, can you share a bit about your role and what People Services looks like inside a growing manufacturing organization like Request Foods?
Yeah, absolutely, Johnny. Again, the People Services team at Request Foods is a team, and it's titled People Services because we are here as a service center to our customers, the folks, the members, our friends at Request Foods. You said it in the intro, Request Foods is more about people and culture. We just happen to make frozen food very well. And so part of my initiative as a leader of the People Services team is just to make sure that we take very good care of our team members. And that takes the shape of many different forms, from some of our outreach programs, our chaplains, our coaching and training programs internally. But again, it's all about building relationships with our folks who make Request Foods a success.
And what makes the people side of manufacturing uniquely challenging right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. The labor pool in West Michigan, especially Holland Zealand, is semi-finite, right? So we're all competing for the same talent, the same skills. We're a growing organization, and so we have some lofty talent acquisition goals. But what makes it very unique and challenging in a three-shift operation is obviously the preferences of the talent, where they want to work. Do we have the right positions to match their skills? But also from a management perspective, with over 1,200 team members and three shifts and three buildings, to have that connectivity with everybody, we want to maintain that to the best of our ability, but it is difficult because we get spread thin, and we feel like it's super important and vital to have those personal relationships with each and every one of our team members. And so I'd say that's one of the challenges for, manufacturers, is just the fact that we have multi-shift operations. Two, perhaps, the skill levels and the talent that we're seeking isn't always available. And so, we're having to do our best to find the best cultural, behavioral, personal fits for the organization, and have that willingness to train, but also be willing to be patient with that learning curve. I'd say those are probably two of the biggest challenges today, Johnny.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. With that size, three shifts, 1,200 people, it takes a lot of intentionality behind it. It takes investment, and sometimes the funding side of things, that can be a challenge, but that makes sense to people. I think one of the most time that the investment is the time that it takes to do that. And that one is really hard kind of to quantify and really put that into perspective of, if you're going to have a great culture that's interconnected, it's going to take a lot of time and intentionality behind that.
That's
So I appreciate not only Request Foods, but your leadership. What do you think employers sometimes underestimate about today's workforce, especially in manufacturing and operation roles?
I think we underestimate the importance of key leadership in operations, key leadership in the manufacturing sector. Our manufacturing and ops leaders are the front line, right? They represent Request Foods to our team members. And so really pouring into their capabilities to be effective communicators, empathetic leaders, motivational and inspirational, passionate team members. not just somebody who can operate a piece of equipment well, and therefore you got promoted to a supervisor, but somebody who also has those soft skills that can really say, "Hey, I can empathize with you. I've been there. Let me show you how to do things. This is why we do it." And to help bridge that gap, if you want to call it that, from manufacturing to the office, to the executive culture. We want that to be seamless and contiguous, and it's that frontline management and leadership that is that bridge. And so intentionally investing in that level is of the utmost importance, because honestly, I think that they can make or break the success of Request Foods in any organization.
Yeah, very well said. How long have you been at Request Foods, Mark?
Well, yeah, I just celebrated my 32nd year with Request Foods. Very blessed and grateful to be with the organization that long. It's been a great run. Still got some life left in me, Johnny. So
Yeah.
I'm real excited to be able to continue to lead and to try to inspire and motivate the people that are with us today, but also help Request Foods set up for the future. But yeah, long 32 years.
Well, you started when you were 12, it
Ah,
looks like so.
thanks, man. Yeah,
But
it's all about the flow. I got some gray coming in here.
so are there any shifts that you've made in that time, that longevity, that consistent with that leadership? I'm sure you've grown as a leader, but is there any shifts that when you think about talent or culture partnerships over the last few years that have made a real difference? Is there any shifts that you can really think of in your time there?
Yeah, I would, personally speaking, I would say, I had some great mentors and coaches along the way for my own professional growth. And I would say that that's a really um, pro tip, if you would, for anybody who's looking to advance in any organization. But to really come alongside somebody and lean into them and learn from them the wisdom that they can impart. And I feel like that's extremely valuable. From an organizational perspective, um, we grew really well organically, and I'd say we just kind of were complacent for a while. But then after we realized, in order to continue to grow as an organization and to have the right skill sets with the folks that are going to help us get there, we had to be a lot more intentional. That was the word you just used, and we use that a ton here. We have to be intentional about talent development, skill, capabilities, um, and so, we've leaned into a more robust learning and development value, if you will, and a philosophy at Request Foods, investing in not only the resources and the talent to help us parlay that information to our folks, but giving them the time, the resources, and the intentionality again to grow with the organization. We want to be an organization that's known for opportunities to advance from within. That's been part of our success story. But something that we've realized after 35 years is the business is moving very quickly,
Mhm.
and because we weren't intentional for a chapter of life, some of that skill gap was real. And so by shoring that up with some outside perspectives, some excellent acquisitions from outside of Request Foods, their perspective, along with intentionality and learning, development, coaching, we're really trying to shore up that gap so everybody still has those opportunities and they can continue this legacy of growth for the organization.
Yeah. And how important is community connection when you think of all the communities that work at Request Foods? It is quite diverse.
Yeah.
And so when you think of community connection and shared values, when it comes to building a sustainable workforce, how important is that community connection?
Yeah. We pride ourselves on being firmly rooted and based in West Michigan. The DeWitt family, born and raised, Borculo, Zealand, started the Billmar saga, and then that transpired over to Request Foods, a great success story. But here in West Michigan, this is our mission field. Jack DeWitt's mission personally was not to travel overseas and be a missionary, but he felt he could be a missionary right here in West Michigan. So through his connections, and we live right in the backyard of West Ottawa schools, Zealand Public Schools, Holland Christian Schools. This is where we want to do God's work. We are a people oriented organization who, just like I said, happens to make excellent food products. So being connected to those school districts, being connected to the organizations around us, um, is a way for us to kind of, do our mission work. It's a way for us to also share in our charitable giving, right here in our backyard. Yeah, we do some national sponsorships and things of that sort, but the vast majority of Request Foods tithing happens right here in West Michigan. So we're really proud of that. Obviously, that catalyzes, um, some legacy types of opportunities, whether it's, uh, you know, the family legacies. My mom, dad, my uncles, they all worked at Request Foods. So we have that great community, family relationships. But to your point, community means the diversity of Holland and Zealand and mirroring that. And I feel like Request Foods does that exceptionally well with a very balanced, demographic, if you will, of our team members. And so we do that intentionally to kind of maintain a healthy balance and to try and, experience um, the experience the values and the strengths that we all can bring to the team, even though there's some foundational demographic things different than us. It kind of makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah. And it creates a bridge of access to opportunities for all, which can be very challenging. If you're not from here, if you immigrate here, if there's different barriers, whether it be language or whatever's in your background that may be difficult to access, great opportunities, a livable wage, great health benefits, amazing food, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, two more questions here. If you could give one piece of advice for HR leaders or executives navigating talent challenges right now,
Mm.
what would that be? And I think having your longevity and your experience in the HR landscape in West Michigan specifically, what advice would you give HR leaders or even executives navigating that?
Yeah. Specifically in the talent acquisition world, I would say that those hires that you're making from manufacturing roles to leadership roles, each one of them is independently extremely important. You don't want to rush the process. You don't want to make hasty decisions. You need to make the right fit-based decisions, culture-based decisions, um, and train for skill. You want to have the values and the belief continuity. So I would say one piece of advice is, is don't go for the easy button in that process. Make sure that you're doing your vetting out and putting in the work, and hopefully you get the payback long term. You shortcut that, and sometimes you win. Sometimes when you didn't do your homework. So
Yeah.
that'd be one key piece of advice. And but also, be honest, be transparent, be humble, tell a great story, but be truthful, and create that relationship with that potential candidate, because you are their trust compadre, if you will, when they first are introduced to Request Foods. And so, being the HR leader is all about developing trust, and so you can only do that, by reciprocating that trust and transparency.
Yeah. And then what should organizations be focusing on this year if they want to stay competitive as an employer?
Yeah, there's a lot of variables, external variables that all employers deal with. First and foremost, compensation and benefits. I mean, that's a key a variable that most folks are going to be looking at when they're making employment related decisions. And beyond that, you really want to make sure that you've got a great story, a great strong culture, an engaging work environment where you feel like once someone joins the team, that they're welcomed, that they're loved, that they're building those relationships with their coworkers, where it's not all about then just comp and benefits per se, but it's about the vibe, and it's about the feeling of coming to work every day, that there's the passion to learn and develop. I mean, I really feel like no different this year than it was last year and the year before, but I feel like really employers with the, if you will, the limited resource of talent, really need to focus on retention, and retention just means loving and taking care of your current folks, all the better.
Hmm. Yeah, very well said. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Mark, thank you very much for sharing your insight and leadership today. Conversations like this are exactly why we created the break room, to learn from people doing the work every day. So thank you very much, Mark.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, Johnny. Thanks very much, man. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. If you're an HR leader, executive, or an employer listening and want to continue the conversations, connect with us at Workforce. We're deeply rooted in community. I love the way you said that, Mark, and committed to helping organizations build strong, inclusive, and reliable teams. Again, thank you again, and we'll see everyone next month at the break room.